This is Cailin Marcel Manson. As you can see, he's a hell of a conductor. And that's just one thing he does. He's a baritone opera singer, a longtime vocal studies teacher, and has performed at major concert venues all over the globe, from the Conservatoire de Luxembourg to Carnegie Hall. And while this tapestry of talent is who Cailin is, let's take a moment and talk about who Cailin isn't. He's not this guy. Or this guy. He's definitely not this guy. You know these guys, the Mozarts, the Bachs, the guys who maybe come to your mind when you think of big names in the classical music canon. But, as history tends to reveal in time, these long-dead white dudes were, of course, not the only guys or gals in town contributing to that canon. There was also this guy, Chevalier, otherwise known as the Black Mozart, a nickname given to him after his death. And there was this guy, Julius Eastman. He was an openly gay Black composer in the 70s and 80s in New York City whose avant-garde contributions to the late 20th century challenged classical norms. That is, until he died, penniless, homeless, and almost completely forgotten in 1990. And there was even this lady, Florence Price, who made history as the first African-American woman to have a symphony performed by a major American orchestra. But she struggled to get her flowers for it all due to her sex and her race. In fact, many of her compositions were considered lost for years until after her death, only to be found in some dilapidated summer home in 2009. You get the picture. These are the lesser name-dropped, powerhouse Black folks who paved the way for people like Cailin to exist and do his thing today. So today, we're gonna talk with this guy because you won't be forgetting the name Cailin Marcel Manson. He ain't your average maestro.
I would sit in that room with all those people and I would look at the altos and I'm like, can you y'all, I need some more Sarah Vaughan in that sound.
Can you stand up and show us what is going on over there? And also, are we matching?
We're sort of matching. We got the beige memo, certainly. I just decided that I wanted to do something a little more blue. So I have these cobalt blue ankle boots and this embroidered pants. And I have this hashtag corsets are daily wear thing, which I have about 5 or 6 different corsets. I don't wear them every day, but frequently.
So good.
Were you ever get that?
So good. It's so good. When it comes to this world of classical music, which you'll learn later, I too know a thing or 20 years about, when it comes to who's allowed in, who's actively welcomed in, and who is genuinely accepted, Cailin has gone beyond the basics of being allowed, anywhere. He is running this world while shaping this music his way.
What is the liberation we're looking for?
That we are looking for
as Black artists.
Okay.
We're Black people as Black artists. Is it that we want to be able to just tell our own stories? Or is it that we want to tell whatever story we want?
And Cailin is remaining fully himself, unapologetically, and unbothered through it all.
I'm going to try not to sip and do too many ASMR moments. I'm sipping my coffee right now.
Listen, that's a whole corner of the internet. We can go there if you want to. From Vermont Public, this is Homegoings, a show that invites you to eavesdrop on candid conversations with people who will challenge what you think you know. I'm Myra Flynn. Today on the show, a conversation with Cailin Marcel Manson about what it means to command a space long dominated by white men, armed with Black skin, a bit of Philly swagger, and a corset. This is Homegoings. We're a proud member of the NPR network. Welcome home. Not to put you on the spot, but I do have to mention, we did teach together at Governor's Institute for the Arts, and I think at one point we were sharing a wall, and if we weren't, it definitely sounded like we were sharing a wall, okay? And I just remember waking up to the craziest sounds coming from your room. And I think I learned later they were vocal warm-ups, but I might have thought you were dying. I'm just
You know what's really funny is, remember when we were at lunch, what was it? Was it Hazel and all those? They were 2 floors down, and they're like, "Yeah, we heard Cailin warming up too."
We could all hear you.
Well, because I think it's also because the vent from the shower.
I think it's because of the U.
Here, I'm trying to explain the physics of it.
No, I'm going to go ahead and say it's the U.
But yeah, so there are a couple things. I mean, I do this thing now where I just kind of check in with my voice. And I say, my friends laugh at me, I say, is Mariah in there? So what I do is I suck air in while I close the vocal folds because I want to feel how easily I can get the finer edges of the folds to approximate, and that tells me like how. So I do something like this, and if I can do that easily, I can always make it happen. But if I can do that easily, and I'm like I just did right there, I'm like, oh, I'm good.
Mariah's here.
Mariah's in there. It's good. But so there are some things that I do, which are like, they call the false vocal folds things, which are like some overtone stuff. So I do a hum and I move my tongue up and down in the back and forward in the middle. Something like this. One of the thing. Something like that, just so I can feel the resonance happen.
Already, are you a didgeridoo? You sound like a whole instrument, like a droned instrument. That's so cool.
So I do stuff like that just to feel where the resonance is.
Okay. What is it you do? Because I don't think it squares with how you're dressed historically,
Oh,
right?
you mean, well, so, okay, I do multiple things.
Mm-hmm.
So I just say, like, singer, you can pretty much do it, whatever, right? I mean, soloist.
I cannot sing like you sing. I call myself a singer. But anyway, we'll get there.
You're still a singer.
Okay.
Singer, I conduct, but I also feel like, but being an academic and a educator,
right?
And then the other thing is just arts management. I wouldn't call it being an impresario because that seems like a little too snidely whiplash for me.
Okay,
it's like I
don't do it then.
All those things, but I think someone actually used this term in reference to what I did, which I thought was interesting. They called me a cultural architect.
Wow.
And it stuck.
That's beautiful.
So sort of building all of these bridges between different institutions and communities and stakeholders to either get them to dream a little bigger or see what was possible. And
I think you're still leaving something out, though.
What?
Classical music.
Classical music.
All of
all
this is
things.
couched in classical music, right?
Yes.
In the world of classical music. But I mean, there's just so much about you that stands out in this world that has always kind of notoriously not even just looked the same or sounded the same, but really made an effort to create like a right and a wrongness.
Absolutely.
Around going outside of that box. So please tell us all, how did you arrive here?
This started very early.
Okay.
So there was an interesting moment where a former high school, like this is a person who taught at the high school that I went to, but I never had her for a class. She wrote my mother. This had to be maybe 6 or 7 years ago on Facebook because I just posted something I was doing, and she wrote to her saying like, you don't remember me, whatever, but I just wanted to tell you about how much of an amazing mother you must have been for your son to show up in 3-piece suits every day, because we were not rich, but I decided I wanted to dress up for school because school's my job. I shit you not. I would wear a big cloak and a cape or whatever to school, and I would like throw it off and toss it. And she was like, that was it. So it started there.
Okay. It's just, it was always in you
so it's
to
always
just
in me to dress that way. And I was always I was going to say something about like in my 40s. I'm in my 40s. I think I've turned more into this like quasi contemporary, but also like fantasy thing. So which is why I love brooches and buckles and corsets and things like that. But I like long lines and the way they flow. But when you go into classical music, you do feel like you have to prove something. You have to.
I can imagine.
You know, you do have to. You go through all these steps. You train. You learn all the languages. Went to study over in Austria, right? So for classical musicians, particularly Black classical musicians of color, there's this thing that you feel you have to do. To prove that you belong. And some of that has to do with, do you put your Blackness, do you put your otherness on the shelf while you learn the style, the expectations, the etiquette
Right.
But I found myself sort of, this happened in the early aughts. I'm dating myself, by the way.
You already said you're in your 40s. We're past that.
But I still feel that way. I do with 20-year-olds or late teens almost my life. Where I just noticed, I'm like, okay, I am, cis male, whatever, and I have to wear a penguin suit while the ladies over there get to have these poofy things or whatever. They get to do whatever they want, and I'm sitting here like, dirt, and I was like, no.
Not for you.
Canned that. So I just started, I had some friends that I had made through productions at first, and they were costumers, and they loved to dress me. And so I was like, hey, do you have anything you've been dying to make, like a garment you've been dying to make? For years, they created things for me to wear. And I just started wearing, and the things that I would wear almost dared people. Like, I look better than the penguin suit. Matter of fact, I look better than, what I'm wearing is more striking than what the ladies are wearing. Right. So I dare you to say something to me.
Right.
And say, you're not supposed to wear that.
But did they?
No.
Nobody said anything.
They wouldn't dare.
And this is in Austria?
But everywhere.
This is just everywhere.
I started doing that when I was in Europe, when I was singing in Bremen, and then just when I came back to the States, I just, like people say, I'm like, I have not worn the penguin suit for the better part of 20 years, at least 18 years, and I'm not going back.
Oh my goodness.
No.
So you've clearly tackled that in how you show up and your presence and what you wear. How are you tackling that same outside of the box thinking and mentality and that right and wrongness we were talking about in what you do, in your conducting and in your art?
There is this thing about the arts where we're expected to innovate and do all this other stuff. But in classical music especially, there is this thing where it's you're definitely commodified. Like you're a singer, you're a conductor, and once you conduct, it's very rare that you keep singing.
I see.
And if you are a conductor that sings, they assume you're a choral conductor. You must just work with singers. But I'm an orchestral conductor, and that's my training. My training is an orchestral conductor. Now, I've worked with choirs, I was with the Bennington County Choral Society and King Chorale and GIA, and because I'm an orchestral conductor that is a singer, and I know how to teach people how to sing.
Right.
So it works that way, but it can take companies and boards of directors and agents, agents in particular, especially in the aughts when I was really starting my career internationally, they find that really difficult to wrap their head around. How do you do all these things? How can we market you?
Is it like, ooh, girl, why you so fly? Or is it we don't know
what to do?
Or is it even worse? Is it we can't take one seriously if you're doing so many?
I mean,
kind of thing.
I would say from an agent standpoint, that's not the issue, but from companies, absolutely.
Yeah.
They
need you to fit.
They need you to fit in a particular way. Even now, I think what's really jarring is that the higher the tier, let's say, tier really just means budget level. Interestingly, the less provincial I've been treated, I find that mid-tier and low-tier, they've bought the conventions a little more whole hog. Right. I think it's because they're trying to prove themselves.
Right, because they're not on the top tier,
exactly.
Right? And so there's a lot more of I don't know, what's the word, self censoring, maybe, right? Censoring of self,
Yeah, and so I can't tell you how many conversations that I've had when I'm talking to a medium tier or a low tier orchestra, and they refer to me as a choral conductor. And I'm like, you completely skipped over the fact that was not what I did in my resume?
Interesting.
They
just assume.
You just assume. Oh, you sing, so we're going to put you on for the choral concert. I'm like, no.
You do sing.
I do sing, but that's not what I came to y'all for.
Yeah. Got it.
So there is some of that.
Yeah,
and you have to kind of push it. You have to, you have to remind people of who they're dealing with and who they're talking to and what your expectations are about how you should be treated.
Right, and that you do belong here. I belong here, right. I I have a classical piano background and then switched over to being a singer-songwriter myself. And the fear of just, look at this jazz chord I'm going to play. It was like, is anybody watching? Is anybody looking? And we can get more into that later. But I'm having like a homey question for you.
Yeah,
just like
please.
Black person to Black person, honestly, previous to you being in this classical world. Tell me about Cailin and music previous to the classical world. I mean, are we all listening to Usher?
So this is interesting that the classical music piece was always present.
Interesting.
Which is different. So amongst many of our, Black, brethren and sistern.
Yes.
If they started singing in the church, particularly the Black church, some of them. For my mother, who I feel like I'm still trying to keep up with, was in her third career as a Lutheran clergy person. Hi, Mom. Because I'm sure you're going to watch this. She left the Black church before I was born, actually, because she felt like the person, the God she encountered when she read and studied the Bible was not what she was hearing. And so she she became Lutheran. And I was raised in what was then arguably like one of the oldest German-founded Lutheran congregations in the country. Like there were soldiers from the Revolutionary War buried in the cemetery outside the church. Real old. It was an ethnically mixed congregation. It was also a reconciling in Christ congregation. So it was a church. It was a congregation that actively supported LGBTQ families.
Okay.
And it had 2 female pastors. So this is what I was raised in.
Pretty revolutionary for the time, yeah.
So in 1 minute, we would be doing, "We've come this far by faith." And you know that? And then the next one would be like, "Komm der Heiden." It was like in the same church service.
Yeah.
So I've always had both.
Mm-hmm.
And for that to be my experience and to be in a place like Philadelphia where there was always, W.E.B. Du Bois wrote about the Philadelphia Negro.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was always this very strong culture of only African-American classical music going on. Like Mother Bethel congregation, Zion Baptist, the Clayton White singers. I mean, like there were at least 2 or 3 choirs that were all Black and all classical when I was growing up in Philadelphia. So I didn't have
such a switch.
Yeah. And I didn't have to feel that I needed to belong in that sphere because I had examples in front of me.
Right.
But when I was like, I think I actually like want to do this for a job, it was like, just like, wait a minute. You want to what? So, yeah.
So we would not be catching you at the club then in Philly during any of these times? No, so you gravitated towards this world and stayed in it?
Well, I gravitated toward the world in my high school years, but I was, I was a nerd. I nerded out. I was really into foreign languages and mythology.
I see this for you.
I was that child. I was that child that literally, like my dad, who was a environmental chemist, like we would stay for him parts of the summer. And I was that child that literally like took his old Encyclopedia Britannica and read the whole thing. Like, this is my summer reading. That was me. So, and my friends when I was in college, they wanted to hit up like clubs in the neighborhood in Philly or whatever. And I was like dragged kicking and screaming. And I was younger than everybody. I was 3 or 4 years younger than everybody. I was not legal. They were, but I presented as older, so they never carded me, but they carded them.
Okay, we're getting all of the tea now. We're getting all of this tea. Okay.
It was but interestingly enough, because I was at the club and I knew how to dance, me, my brother.
A little two-step.
Well, and I grew up around the hip hop culture too. Okay. That's the other thing. So my brothers were very much into it. My brother Lamar is an extremely well-known spoken word artist, one of the original Russell Simmons Deaf Poets, Black Ice. So like that was a world that was a part of what I was doing.
Amazing. And you will be connecting me with Lamar after this. Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Austria. So
we're just gonna go
I feel like I know I have like a good picture of young Cailin and the surroundings, like, which sounds so magical, like to have that many Black classical choirs in one area. But what took you to Austria? How did you get there?
Oh, Lord. So, I could get like the vainglorious one is like, well, I applied for a fellowship and I got a scholarship that supported me to get there and all that. But really what drove me to Austria and studying at the Mozarteum, which is the school that was founded by a foundation founded by Mozart's wife.
Oh, wow.
To preserve his music. And then it became this school. I ended up there really because, I was exceedingly young. So, I started college. I started college at 15.
Wow.
I finished early. I graduated from grad school a few months after I was 20.
Brag about it.
But I was young.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know I didn't know what my next steps were, talking about challenges. So I had a voice that was a little more mature for my age, that belied my age. I could learn music really, really fast. Because of that, the things that I felt good for me to sing were not necessarily things that the establishment would hire me for at that point. So I needed to figure out what to do.
You had a gap. You had some time.
Yeah. I had to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And I was singing recitals and doing concert stuff and blah, 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 but just local stuff at Philly. And there was some, trouble in, my household life. And so I just needed, I went to the minute that I had opportunity to get off of the soil and go to an environment where I didn't know anyone. I took it and I ran. And while I was there, like right away, I had like immediate imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Like immediate imposter syndrome. And not because, and it was such a learning experience for me because I left my undergraduate really, really despising education. Like I felt like I was jumping through a bunch of hoops that the school, while I appreciated what I was learning, and I had great mentors and great teachers there. I felt like I was always just trying to be who I was, do what I felt I was compelled to do, but not quite fitting into the box of what they felt I should be doing. But then over there, I just felt like, wow, I'm surrounded by all this music all the time. I'm performing all the time. I've got these great teachers. I'm literally like, I look out of my practice room and there's freaking this floral garden and there's
sound of music,
and there's
backgrounds, and wow.
And it was just I felt myself kind of doing this, like just kind of walling myself in, closing myself in. About 3 or 4 months in, when they decided that I was going to include a major in orchestral conducting in my studies. I was there for it as an opera and musical theater major. And I was like, wow, this is actually, the ethos is actually completely different here. When I was in the States, when I was in my undergrad and even doing competitions and stuff like that, I felt like I needed to prove myself. I felt like I needed to show that this young Black boy from Northwest Philadelphia had it going on, or at least knew what he was doing enough to be trusted with opportunities.
Right.
And over there, the ethos was, you wouldn't freaking be here if we didn't think you belonged.
Right. You already made it. You're here. Yeah.
Like, and so now that you're here, learn what you need to learn. And also, once you learn what you need to learn, get the fuck out and do it. I mean, which was like,
wow.
And it gave me, and they were training everyone that way. And I
was going to say, it sounds like true equal treatment, which is like, as a Black person, you're like, what do I do? What do I do with my hands? Like, this isn't.
Well, and that's the thing. There's a great book by Joy DeGruy called like Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, and I was feeling a lot of those things, right? Like some of the things she talks about, just like I was constantly on this, and I was young, so honest, right? But I was constantly on this alert. Like I'm like, when is the other shoe going to drop?
Right.
When are they going to be like, wait a minute, you snuck in, or you only got here because someone in power liked you, or you know what I mean?
Right, of course.
Like someone's going to come with that question about like, why are you truly here? And when that didn't happen, and not only that didn't happen, but they were like, you've got so many skills that we want to help you grow. Because I had been conducting since I was in high school. But I kind of put that on the shelf while I was studying to be a singer at Temple. But they saw that and they're like, nope.
Bring it back off the shelf.
Come on.
Wow.
Come on. And we're going to give you this world-class, education to help you do it.
That must have felt amazing.
Yeah. It was, I felt incredibly seen there, arguably for the first time, while I was running away, by the way. While I was like trying to get away from my whole problems with the family and finances and all that other stuff, while I was trying to just get away from America.
Yeah.
While I was at a place that I felt completely saw me, at least creatively. And I was inventing myself there. Like I was claiming who Cailin was as a young adult in this place that had nothing to do entirely with really what I came from. So that was kind of an empowering thing and also a little weird.
Yeah. Had to go so far away from home to get back to self.
Absolutely.
In a way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Your identity in all of this, gosh, it sounds like it's been squeezed and stretched and also like completely justified and had a lot of beauty and beautiful experiences. Was your queer identity feeling as confident as your identity as a musician during this time?
I feel like I really dug into my queerness once I feel like I entered the profession full time, because I felt like it's not, and trust me, it's not that I didn't, do what I needed to do and scratch an itch that needed to be scratched. And I had relationships and stuff like that. I mean, but I found that I was focused, and I mean it. Like while I was exploring queerness and how I wore it. And I think let's just talk about that for a second. There are two things that happen, I think, with queerness, especially in queerness in America, right? Like there's this idea that, we are the rainbow and it's, and everyone, but there's not. I mean, there's a lot of friction within that. And I found myself in the late 90s struggling to see how I, being a young queer person, fit into the prevailing queer culture. It was one of the reasons why I was dragged kicking and screaming to the clubs, right? Because, I would see my friends who would be, with a Rice Krispie treat in hand, wearing their, fleece pajamas to class. I was never going to show up to class like that. Literally almost change themselves into anime characters with hair that looked like soft serve to go to the club, because that's what was, I guess, attractive or what was expected. And you could see
freeing.
Or freeing, maybe. Although I did find there was a lot of visual similarity amongst people of a certain age that I saw in these environments. Whereas I had locks at the time.
You did not.
Yes, I did.
You had locks never.
Yes, I did.
God, I need pictures. We're getting a picture.
You have to dig.
Show this picture.
You have to dig, give the dig. There's always this one moment every semester where students must Google me or something. And they're like, oh my God, you had hair. And I'm like, okay,
But also locks.
I had locks.
Yeah.
But I was there, and they were long too, like down to here. So I had them up, big ponytail. And I just couldn't remake myself. But they wanted me to go. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go. And they would be out on the dance floor, and there was something about being on the dance floor or whatever. Like, I love to dance. I would bop with my mom and family reunions, like, cut it up. There's a great video, there's a great Instagram of me teaching the entire Putney School the electric slide, by the way.
Okay. We're going to find it.
But being crowded like that, constantly like with people kind of in your personal space. The way I presented, like I dressed more formally. I ended up actually sitting, I enjoyed it, but I didn't get on the dance floor. I was sitting at the bar talking to some of the older queer men that were just at the bar.
Yeah, just chilling.
Just chilling. I got to know the bartenders. They came to know that, one, because my mom bartended her way through University of Pennsylvania, like that I knew what liquor I wanted. I was like, can you? They're like, oh, okay. Okay, yo, man, what would you want? I was like, it's been a hard day. I need a Kettle One dirty martini.
Yes.
They're like, I'm like, yes, and dirty. The dirtier, the better.
Okay, noted.
Like, you know, like it's been a hard day. So I had that experience as a young queer man that just felt like I was struggling to figure out where I fit into the sort of the queer landscape
of things.
And I felt that, and because I felt that so strongly, I kind of didn't focus on it very much. And I focused on achievement. And not because I felt anyone required me. That's the thing. I didn't feel like anyone required me to achieve, but achievement was my safe place. Yeah. Achievement was like, I can do this. I can learn this music. I can write these papers. I can memorize these roles. I can sing these recitals off book. Let me hit that. And it wasn't really until, like I said, I was done with my schooling and entered into the profession and then realized, oh crap, like what am I singing about?
Yes.
What am I making music about? What am I trying to express?
Think about when we talk as Black people, and it's like, oh gosh, there's so many conversations out there of like, oh, how is it working in a sea of whiteness? And it's like, we learned how to navigate that forever ago because you figured out some hack to not have to code switch very, very early on. Like, even though you didn't know everything, you were ready to learn, but you didn't stop being yourself, and you allowed yourself some slow self-discovery, which like, please write that book because so many can use that. All of this to say, I think what I struggled with in the classical world is just like playing all the music of some of these old dead white people that not only are they old and dead and white, but also problematic. And
Wagner.
Also, there you go, Wagner, anyone? Oh my goodness. And on top of that, unmoved, unchanged, really kept in a sacred way of playing and performing these pieces. And as a Black man, my question for you is definitely like, how are you waking up every day and dealing with that inner struggle of playing these old, dead, problematic white men's music?
So I can say one of the issues that I felt like I've combated and still fight is, particularly in classical music, is this idea, and this is where I think DEI went a little awry in the classical music world, or only went to half measures.
Our most recent movement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the most recent developments is that, and rightly so, there are a number of, African-American composers. Think about Florence Price, William Grant Still, Leslie Adams, Ulysses Kay, Julia Perry, like Margaret Bonds, that should have always been played as part of the American music lexicon, right?
Right.
But what ends up happening is you specialize them. So they become special. We're going to do an all-Black composers concert.
Right.
We're going to do an all-female composers concert. I don't want to tokenizing them, box checking, all of that.
Right.
And the real transformation, I talk about like, what is the liberation we're looking for? The real transformation is like you don't normalize when you specialize.
Can you say that, but slower? What is the liberation?
What is the liberation we're looking for?
That we are looking for
as Black artists.
Okay.
Or Black people as Black artists. Is it that we want to be able to just tell our own stories? Or is it that we want to tell whatever fucking story we want? Because to me, that's true liberation. It's not saying, oh, you're Black, so you can only tell stories that look like you. Or that you can only tell stories that we understand you to be the experts of, because that's not really liberating to me. It's that, yes, I want to be able to tell my story, but actually I can use your music and tell my story too. I can literally be on a stage and be the supreme Norse god as a Black man and have all of that dimension and all that psychological development and all of that symbolism rest in my very brown, very Black body. And in order to do that, I don't have to leave what comes with that. I think it was really telling when we were going through the pandemic and so many of our fellow artists, of course, were struggling because there were no performances going on. I was still the music director of the Bennington County Choral Society, and I was the music director of the Keene Chorale in New Hampshire. You know,
pretty white spaces and
and these, not even pretty, like all white, really. There might have a couple here and there.
Yeah.
But had been basically going to the marching orders of this Black man.
How's that feel?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and but it was telling.
I see.
Because it was a very different story than other, like I go to these board meetings, they're all white people. But I say, this is how we need to meet this moment. You know, this is what we need to do. I'm not going to do a virtual choir, but I am going to share, you know, we're going to connect. We're going to remember why this is important to us. We don't need to show anything. We don't need to do anything, but we're going to connect. We're going to come back out of this and we're going to do, you know, The Ordering of Moses, you know, which is by Robert Nathaniel Dett, Black Canadian composer. We're going to do all of these things. I'm going to bring these Black classical artists to this area, not because or whatever, but because, you know what? At the end of the day, they are, and they have been, actually being Black, they probably have exceeded the level of some of the many artists that you've been exposed to. But I'm not going to bring them up just to do the Black piece. They're going to do Bach and they're going to do Handel, because what you need to see is that these are people that carry and that tradition. And in classical music, it's not just about doing Black music or music by Black people, but the way forward, if we're really going to do it, is you have to hand over power of curation to Black people, right? And that means, we have not heard enough Black people conduct Beethoven 5. I know white people think that they've heard it enough because it's been there, but you haven't heard the way I do it. You haven't heard the way Anthony Parker does it. We bring something of ourselves to that music and how we do it, especially when you're like a mature Black artist and you don't give a crap. Like, you're like, look, I
part of the We Do Not Care Club.
Well, and I literally sit there. I will sit in Keene Chorales when we talk about how I bring my Blackness to this. Like, I will sit in that room with all those people, and I would look at the altos. And I'm like, can you, like, y'all, like, I need some more Sarah Vaughan in that sound.
Wow.
And they're like, oh yeah, we because they listen to her. You know, we're singing Mendelssohn, and I'm talking about Sarah Vaughan. You know, I'm telling the sopranos they need to bring more Ethel Merman into their sound. Like, when I had great teachers. I didn't hear any of my teachers using those type of similes, but they come from my experience, my multifaceted musical theater, man of the theater, Black, raised in hip hop, listening to mom's jazz and soul experience. And I bring that into the classical space. And they, as white people from New England, are still receptive to it. Because in some ways, me being my whole complete self invites them to be themselves too.
Could you sing us something that you find profound or means something to you, or maybe even speaks to some of what we've been talking about here today?
Wow. So I was thinking about this.
I would just love to hear you sing.
So there's something, it's interesting because it's kind of it kind of fits. So what was it? Yesterday Yom Kippur. And there's this piece, it's borrowed by Maurice Ravel called Kaddish. And it's what can be accompanied by piano, but I'll sing just a little bit of it.
Sure.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemed Kudshah Berichu Leila uleila min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbehata v'nechmata damirana be'olma Amen.
Wow. Wow.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you want to continue to be a part of the Homegoings family, stay in touch at homegoings.co and subscribe to the Homegoings podcast wherever you listen. Take good care.